Hello everybody, welcome back to Papa's Saw Shop. We're out here in beautiful state of Oregon, land of the cheese trees and the ocean breeze. And as you can see, I still got my summer hat on, so we're still out there still fighting the heat wave. I think it's something about 91 degrees or something like that outside, and about 115 or something in here at the shop. So, but anyway, I digress. What can you do? Not a whole lot. So I just wanted to show everybody. I've had this question whenever I go out and I put on my salesman hat, and I go out and I try to sell these old goat custom chainsaws, and I have a lot of people say, that thing is modeled after the 660. Yeah. That's where we start. And so the question I have is, if it's modeled after a 660, don't you think if you've got this bright idea, and so what, you patented this wing thing that goes on the cylinder head, don't you think if that was a good idea way back when, that Stihl would have just done that? You think they might have? What makes you so doggone smart? Well, here's my answer. And I wanted to address this, and I wanted to show all you folks that just in case you have a question like that, because that's a fair question. I mean, these are people that spend millions of dollars at least, if not billions, on research and development and all that kind of stuff. And I'm certainly not here to tell you that, we're better than anybody else. I wouldn't ever step into that public crap. When it all comes down to it, every chainsaw's got its good and its bad and its ugly and everything. It doesn't matter who you are. But what we try to do with the old goat saws, and especially the PS series, is that we just try to improve a little bit on what was already there. And so that's what we've done. So as I'm cleaning this, I got this 362, and I'm going to move the camera here a little bit so you guys can kind of see what's going on here. Let me get you, so you don't have to look at my ugly mug. I'll have you look at this saw right here, and we'll get right here. All right. So first of all, let's show you an old goat saw. Before we get to this guy here, we'll just shove that over on the bench here a little bit, and let me get you a little bit lower so you can kind of see here. Hold on just a minute here. Oh, there we go. Now you can see what's going on. All right, as you can see, I've got limited space here on the bench today. I'm busy as an 8-day clock. But so let me reach down here. All right. So here is an MS660. Okay, in all of its glory. All right. Now let's pull out an old goat saw. I got one down here that's, all right. So first of all, I'm going to show you the 660. All right. Now, the obvious plus, the obvious big part about a 660 is just what it is. These are big, powerful saws on their own. And Stihl did a fine job of creating these in the first place. They have an excellent power to weight ratio. They can be a little bit heavy if you got to lug them around, to be fair. But these were not really made to lug around. These were made to take it out, do what you got to do, and set it down, and then pick up your 440 and lug that around, or pick up your farm boss or whatever. But these, we all know what these were intended for, and for what they were intended for, they do a good job. There's just a couple of things. All right. Number one, the dogs that they put on these 660s, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I went out to cut firewood or something like that with a 660, the dog just doesn't deliver. It just, for what the saw is, the dog just doesn't get out there and grab as much as what this saw wants to eat. And so there's that. You got you got the cord and the pawls. I can't release it just yet, but we're working on some things with the pawls to make the pawls a lot more sturdy. Because you got this much power that you're cranking, and those pawls reach out. And I've got some. I'm not going to mess with them, but anyway, you got these little plastic pawls that come out and they grab these onto this right here. There's a lot of torque onto those little plastic pawls, so those are a weak spot. Now let's talk about the biggest weak spot of the 660. Heat is the biggest. Overheating. These guys will just run hot, and if you're anywhere where global warming seems to be taking effect, these will get hot pretty doggone quick. So what did they do to address the heating on here? I'm going to tell you, absolutely nothing. Zero. They got big fins on them, hoping that the air is going to blow up into here. There's no curl on these fins. I mean, hardly any air to push up here. You got nothing here to channel air or nothing. It just comes up here, and let's just hope that this air that comes up here makes its way back in here, and it doesn't. It just doesn't. I've got a drawer. I tell everybody I've got a drawer back here full of pistons that I can show you, and I'll have to dig that thing out sometime, just show everybody. But cylinder head damage, if I turn it on its side, always happens right here. This here gets extremely hot. Here's the muffler. I've turned it so that I'm looking upwards. The dogs would be up here. This part of the cylinder stays about 1,000 degrees. This part over here, I've seen them get as hot as 2,700 degrees. That is way too warm. So there's very little done to try to cool this side of the saw. And on the covers, they let this cover open right here, but that doesn't do anything. I mean, there's no air getting pushed up from here. You're not sucking in any air. You're blowing out something from the fan, but even that is not much. Okay, so now we've talked bad about them. Now I feel bad for talking bad about people because I don't make a habit of doing that. But again, let me just end this on a positive note. The 660, by its own right, is a doggone good saw. Tried and proven. So they work. I'm not dissing that at all. Now let's say an old goat saw. All right. Number one, a little more power. We bore that guy out. You know, that's we bore that out so that we change the timing by a couple of degrees. We use either our dogs, or we're going to be coming out with our own dogs on the new models coming out. These are West Coast dogs here. I like the West Coast dogs. The only thing I don't like about the West Coast dogs is that, and I tell everybody this, and I'm not talking bad about West Coast. It's just the way that they're built. You see that lip right here that comes down? There's almost no way to get around that thing. When you put a long bar on this thing, the saw sits crooked. It drives me insane. So it doesn't sit upright. So just by the very nature of these guys, I mean, they do a fine job, but it's just that little quirk right there that drives me crazy. But anyway, the point is, having a 3-point felling dog on this guy, it provides the saw with a whole lot more to chew on, rather than the basic dogs that they come out with. So kudos to West Coast for doing that, for getting that, pretty much for introducing the 3-point dog system. And they've pretty much revolutionized the whole dog setup. So anyway, let's move on to the biggest thing we talked about, cooling. Okay, we got this board out here so that we can get more power. We also open up the interior, open up the intake side so we can get a little more air coming in that side. So there's a lot more air, there's a lot more stuff going on in here now. Now, if you notice, I'll get you closed up here. Look at this valley right here. Let me get my finger out of the way. I've shown this on other videos, but look at this valley right here. So now, the flywheel comes here, it blows air up in here, and before it had nowhere to go. It just come up and just hopefully come through here. Well, now it comes up and it goes through here. All right. So now when it comes through here, now we also trim out this other side right here. Let me turn this right there. So when that air comes through this side, you can see right where my big finger is. I'll put this tool right through here. Look at this. Imagine this is air coming through. Look at that. Goes straight through. Goes right here. And it swirls right here. When it swirls right here, it comes right up on here. Now, you've got air blowing right up in there. Okay? You're going right through here, and on up in here. Now, I've taken 10 minutes of your time, 12 minutes to be exact, explaining the difference between a 660 and this here, and I still haven't addressed the question. If Stihl thought this was a good idea, why didn't they do this? You know what, friends and neighbors? I'm here to tell you something. Get my finger down here if I'm going to point at you. Here's a 362C. Look at this. Now they got a little bit fancier, well, because they're Stihl, and you know, and they can, I guess. But look at this. There's a little more curl on the flywheel. Okay. On the front, they put this guy. Okay, they put this little cover right in here. Now, what they're hoping to do by putting that on there, and you can kind of see where I clean this off, you can kind of see right here. I don't know if you can see with the camera or not, but there's kind of a, look at my, doggone it. Oh, I got too damn many things on this counter. Right here, I don't know if you can see, let me see where the camera's at here. Ah, quit moving it around, Papa. Right there, there's some scratch marks coming up here. Okay, so that's where dirt, debris, rocks, whatnot have been coming up here. All right, so they have the air coming up this direction now. Now look what they did here. They put this guy in here. Now what do you think this is for? This goes down into that channel. Remember that channel we were talking about down inside of the intake? Okay, well, instead of cutting stuff out of here, which they very well could have, what they did is they just put an extra plastic tube in there. And why did they do that? Well, because Stihl likes extra parts, that's why. Not saying that's a bad thing, but it just is. Now, remember that air that we wanted to get up here? Let me get the saw down a little bit more. We want to get that air on this side of the saw, on the clutch side. I want you to focus on my pocket right here, okay? Now I'm going to stick this air hose right inside that hole, okay? I'll Stick that right inside that hole right there, where that tube goes up there. Okay? Now, let's see if I can do this again. Stick it right there. I gotta get just in the right place here. None of my earphones ain't working. Oh, that's embarrassing. Look there. See that? Let me get the camera around here. Doggone it. It's hard to do. You see where my pocket is? All right, now you see where I'm spraying. All right, there's the hose. And right here, look at there. That's where the air's coming out. Oh boy, I'm just going to toss you all over the place. So, what they've done, and I didn't really realize this until I'm here cleaning this 362. By golly, they've done the same doggone thing, only they've done it with the smaller saws, because they couldn't figure out, for whatever reason, or just didn't feel like it. I don't know. Why do they do what they do? I don't know. But they've already figured this out on the smaller saws, that you've got to get the air back into there. And you've got to go to the other side, and you've got to get the air back into this side. All right, now let me put you back up here so I can talk to you. Oop, not far enough. There we go. Now, that might seem like a simple concept, but the 660 has been around for a long time. I've been around for a long time. And I used an 066 back in the day. And I remember hearing those things lug down because they're getting too hot and letting them sit and cool down a little bit. So, I don't recommend this, but I have heard of guys taking the top off of these doggone things, off of these old goat PS series, and just saying, doggone it, look at that cold air flying out of the top of that by that muffler. It happens. So from our R&D here at the shop, what we've come up with on our design on these guys here is that so far, now this is as of today, testing as of today with all the stuff that this patented design that we've done on the cylinder head and the patented regroove on the frame. And once we get into this more and we start developing our own cases, these cases are going to look a little different because it's actually going to have, instead of slicing that piece out, we'll actually have it built that way. From where, as far as heat, from where the cool air travels and how the heat travels, I've not seen a papa saw yet on this top right here that I was telling you on a 660 will reach what I've seen 2,700 degrees in our testing here is the hottest I've gotten that thing. The hottest I've gotten one of these things is 960 degrees. That's as hot as I can get this side right here. And that's basically just letting them sit out here in the backyard and pissing off the neighbors and letting them full bore run and running out about a half a tank. And that ain't good for any saw. I don't recommend that for anything, but this is what we're doing to test these things. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to show that a little bit to address that question, because it has been out there and I have been asked that a few times, that why hasn't somebody done that? All right, well, um, somebody has done it, but they've not done it like we have. How efficient is the 362? It's a doggone good saw. I mean, I got no complaints with them. The only, as far as the air travel, the only complaint that I would have is that, and I know why they do this. They put these front covers on here, on that, and they do it for you, okay? Because if you're doing things the way you ought to be doing, you ought to be taking this saw apart every time that you go out and you work it for a whole day. You take it back to the shop, you tear it apart, you clean it all out. Well, some of us do and some of us don't, and that's a fact. All right, so if you put this in here like that, now you're just pulling this amount of air, and you're just pulling it into the flywheel, into the center of the flywheel, and so you minimize the dust that gets up into this little hole right there. So if I got any complaint about how they've done this forced air kind of system, that's an awfully small hole. So it does deliver some air. I mean, we've seen it. It blows my pocket, you know. So it does deliver some air. But I just got done cleaning this thing. And when I get these in to clean them, the first thing I do is I take some pipe cleaner and I go up inside there and I clean that, and then I'll take that thing completely off and I clean that all. And there's generally a fair amount of gunk down in there. So if you could, if not you, but if they had, instead of opening all this up right here willy-nilly and then just put that little tiny jet in here, this little tube, if they'd have blocked this off and then kept the curl on the flywheel, just open up this area right here, you'd have that forced air right up in there, and you'd have more air coming out this side. And somebody's done it already. Oh wait, that'd be an old goat custom chainsaw. We've already done it. We've already figured that out, exactly where to cut that hole, how to cut that hole, how to form this cylinder head right here. And does it work? Well, our research and development has proven that it's worked. I've got people that are operating these doggone things in the hottest temperatures. I've had some of these things go to forest fires, and they come back and we take a look at them after they've been cutting in a forest fire, and the boys out there are like, hey, give me that saw back. It's the best one I've got. So proof's in the pudding, you know. Takes a little while to get these out to you. I mean, I do all this shaping and everything myself. I do all the building and the reinforcing of the case. I mean, if you've seen my videos, you've seen me complain about just how much it takes. But yeah, it takes a little bit to get one of these doggone things. But I'll tell you what, once you get it, you'll never want to let go. It's one of those saws that once you put your hands on it, you go, oh boy, this is something different. Yeah, you won't let none of the whippersnappers be operating that saw, you know. So anyway, I've done enough bragging and bitching for one video, but I just wanted to show you all folks that why didn't somebody do it? Yeah, somebody did kind of do it. They I don't think they've taken a peek at our saws, because I think the 362C was around before we started doing the old goat saws, but it is being done, and I'm not the only one. I'm just the only one that seems to be doing it right. So there's my bragging, and that's all I got. If you want to take a look at a video of an old goat custom chainsaw, you want to take a look at what they look like, head over there to www.papashop01.com. And I invite you to, since you've watched this video for 25 minutes, you ought to just go ahead down there and subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff anyway. And go to www.papashop01.com and subscribe there. And when we have sales, when the old goat has an adventure, you'll be one of the first ones to hear from him. And you'll be the first one to take advantage of any kind of sales we come up with. So, till next time, that's all I got here. And, you know what I always say, be careful out there. Happy motoring.